Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're kind of looking at our current weather pattern. Right now our main thing is this Tropical Storm Alberto. I'm trying to look a little bit into tropical weather because it's not something I'm too well versed in. But also something I wanted to mention was for the past few days we've had, or really the past like a week or two, we've had not very much severe weather other than this little mini outbreak here in Maryland. Um, for June especially, we've had a lot of scattered severe weather, like a few reports here and there, but the reports aren't really going too high, and severe weather has been basically on a down low for quite a while, especially for June. You'll see scattered wind and hail reports quite often with a lot of these days, but especially for June, it's not too often that you see no enhanced risk. We've only seen one or two for the most part, and just kind of these slight risks of strong hail and strong winds with those updrafts that sometimes in these random little daughter storms, I like to call them, little storms that blow up every once in a while. Basically, just a bunch of cumulus, and they just die right away. Occasionally, you get hail and wind with those, but otherwise, you've seen quite a lull in severe weather. As you can see with all these storm reports, I just kind of clicked through the past 2 weeks, and for the most part, I think we've only had like 3 days where we hit over 200 ports, which is kind of interesting to look at. Right now, our weather pattern is mostly indicative of a big old trough, or excuse me, big old ridge on the east coast, which I've talked about in that last video I made. Basically, just a bunch of ridging over the United States, and that has been what's going on for the past few days. And once again, though, we are planning on seeing another ridge. Like the GEFS, this is the GFS ensemble run. Basically, all these miles together, you can see, again, this ridge here in the east, kind of almost bananas out a little bit. It's a very large locking pattern. And then it goes off into the west, or the west coast. And this stronger flow is more up here in the Canadian region, or like your northern states, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. That's where all your flow is really going to. So our severe weather is mostly up here, and we're actually seeing, I believe, colder temperatures on the southern side. I might be wrong about that. It's been kind of different, I think. Warmer temperatures, especially for the east, but I think this region, New Mexico, and Texas around here, because of the high pressure, you'll get a little bit of cyclogenesis around here, but that actually ends up making colder temperature. Also, the fact that, and don't forget, high pressure, big old ridge right here. This will bring out the warmer temperatures up into here. So right into Canada, right into the North Dakota, or Dakotas, excuse me, Minnesota. All that region's gonna be seeing a little bit more uptick of better moisture and better temperatures for severe weather. And that's what we have been seeing. Again, looking at all these storm ports, got a lot more weather here in Minnesota and the Dakota states, right? Lots of Montana and Dakotas. I think our main events recently have been that wind day, and there was, I think I missed on. There was a day with the Minnesota. Here it is, Minnesota hail and tornado kind of event here. That's been our main pattern for the past few days, and it does seem like that's going to keep going. For GFS, again, I don't want to look too crazy. We're already 300 hours out here, but for the most part, the ensemble GFS is showing ridging to continue over the United States. After 174 hours, so that's about, I think, a week from today, becomes a lot more uncertain. But even the GFS here still shows that pretty strong ridging staying in place until I think about July beginning, and then you start getting a little more troughing coming. I think the Euro is also showing something. Still doesn't go out far enough, but yeah, that ridging moving off to the east is a lot less strong here, not as well defined. Regarding Tropical Storm Alberto, this is basically what started out as was down in Yucatan. It's quite hard to see. Let me go to the GFS model here. Had going on, it was a little bit of a tropical disturbance down here in the Yucatan Peninsula, and basically they took the track and just went right up here because regarding this high pressure, for the most part, tropical systems don't like to move towards high pressure because there's more air there. That's why it's high pressure. They kind of move away from it. You can imagine our flow of this high pressure again rotating like so. Once you get this little tropical disturbance down here, I'll draw it in pink. This moved north. Then because of this high pressure, it kind of has turned this way. That's kind of how our tropical disturbance and now tropical storm Alberto has gone. Main issue with this now, though, is going to be a slight tornado risk here for Texas. So actually, the main risk is going to be more in Mexico with the heavy flooding, and there's heavy flooding risk with Texas. Unfortunately, these agencies don't really move towards Mexico at all. So I would expect to see, this red would probably be more down here for Mexico even, but for the most part, it's looking at the very bottom of Texas down here. That's gonna be seeing a lot of flooding. You can see here. Oh, that little big. You can see here in Texas, though, they have I believe that's a 40% chance at least of heavy flooding. This would be on the Climate Prediction Center's page, I believe. I'm just looking at the National Hurricane Center and what they're seeing. The cone just goes straight to the west, basically. So, storm force winds and a lot of flooding here. You can look in the HRRR model. I'll go down into a little harder to see, but there's our tropical storm down there. I don't know if the HRRR goes as far down as I'd like it. Oh no, the NAMSC does do this now. Okay, might be a different model. Yeah, it was different. I don't know if I can get down far enough for it. But either way, there's our tropical storm down there, and it's mostly looking at Mexico. But for these southern portions of Texas down here, move. I'm down here. Let me see if I can get a look. It's noticing. There we go. Lots of rain. This is simulated. I believe this is composite. So simulated composite reflectivity. Just a lot of it falling for those few days. If you take a sounding, I'll take a sounding from right in the middle of. So you can see how saturated the environment is. This is the RAP model sounding. You can actually see the little bit of curvature in that lower levels. Big little curvature in the lower levels, but it's kind of not the way you'd expect because storms are moving to the west. But instead, the curvature is right here, kind of the west. So you could get some tornado risks out of that, more embedded supercells maybe. Based on what we saw in the NAM, these are a little more discrete. So there's that possibility of maybe a few supercells coming off the coastline here, but I think the main issue here is definitely rain. The NAM model is much more aggressive, but a lot more shear here as well. Not supercellular, of course. You have like the possibilities of it, but there's just so much strong shear because it's a tropical storm. Just a very strong, basically a very strong surface low. And there's so much moisture with this that we could see tornadoes kind of embedded in those little bands. So very similar to other hurricane setups. That's our main risk for today. On the next days, again, it gets very quiet. Here's our day 2 outlook, and basically just a little bit of wind damage. Slight little tornado thing here in Wyoming, Nebraska. Hail and wind, especially for like New York. But again, next few days, here's our day 3. It's a little marginal risk, but a lot of widespread thunderstorm coverage. Day 4 is, all these are very much like potential too low. Day 4 and 5 are predictability, or 6 as well, but for the most part, the potential is very low for these days. You might see a few little slight risks, but SBC doesn't really have any clear-cut organized systems going on. That's just, again, because of this large ridge we're going to be seeing over the United States. So for the most part, that's the bulk of this video. Again, the main thing going on right now is going to be Tropical Storm Alberto, basically flooding for the south regions here in Texas, and for a few days as well. Another important thing to look at when we look at these soundings is both of these are very extremely saturated all the way up to really the entire QT. I mean, this is 100 millibars up here, and the temperature dew point spread is only about, I believe, only about 7 degrees right there. It's very large. 7 degrees Celsius, excuse me. But, you know, for the most part, the temperature and dew point are right on line with each other all the way up to 400 millibars in the atmosphere. And even after that, just so much saturation across that entire QT. Same thing with the NAM look. Extremely saturated. The NAM shows even more CAPE, although I don't know if we'll see that much CAPE. Because don't forget, we're not going to see much surface heating, so temperature should stay right about here where it's at. Let's see if we can look at the RAP model for that at all. Yeah, surface heating doesn't look very lightly with this system at all, just because it's all so much cloud cover, and it's tropical storm, so it's just a bunch of cloud cover, really. Here's today. Again, yeah, not much surface heating there. I think the NAM might be showing a little bit of it. I think the NAM shows a very slight surface heating in some of this, but for the most part, again, we're not going to be seeing surface heating. So this CAPE is probably quite overdone because you're not going to see parcels rising. It's not going to be more warm than the temperature is on the surface. So probably not as much CAPE as the NAM showing. But again, all that shear could really help tornadoes with all the systems. Kind of interesting photograph as well, just because of the backwards shear. You can kind of imagine if this was a right mover and kind of looked like this. Their photograph, kind of. It's the same thing, just going the other direction. So, yeah, not much to talk about in this video. I might be able to look at the Maryland event at some point, so if I can get that to work, I will make a video on that. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and it's been a bit since I make a video. I've been looking at web courses online for meteorology to kind of up my knowledge a little bit, and we're enrolled in college, so hopefully we'll be doing more on meteorology very soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.